Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text number 9. Yavat Prataktvam idam atmana indriyata maya balam bhagavato jana isha pasyat tavan na samstitiya asu Pratisankrameta Vyatapi Dukkha Nirvaham Vahati Kriyata Yavat Pratakvamidam Atma Indriyata Maya Balam Bhagavato Janaisha Pasyat Tavanna Samsti Asuprati Sankaramat Rameta Vyatapi dukkha nivaham vahuti kriyata Yavat pratakvamidam atma indriyata Maya balam bhagavato jana isha pasyat Tavanna samsta asuprati sankrameta Vyatapi dukkha nivaham vahuti kriyata As long as pratakvam, separatism, idam, this, atmana, of the body, indriyata, for sense gratification, maya balam, influence of external energy, bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead, jana, a person, isha, O my Lord, pasyat, sees, tavat, so long, na, not, samstiti, the influence of material existence, asu, that man, prati sankrameta, can overcome, vyatapi, although without meaning, dukkha nivaham, multiple miseries, vahati, bringing, kriyata, for fruitive activities. Translation: O my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet, as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries, being influenced by your external energy. Repeat: O my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet, as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries, being influenced by your external energy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The whole trouble of the living entity in material existence is that he has an independent conception of life. He is always dependent on the rules of the Supreme Lord in both the conditioned and liberated states. But by the influence of the external energy, the conditioned soul thinks himself independent of the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. His constitutional position is to dovetail himself with the desire of the Supreme Will. But as long as he does not do so, he is sure to drag on in the shackles of material bondage. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 255, prajahita yada kamam savam Partha manogatam. He has to give up all sorts of plans manufactured by material concoction. The living entity has to dovetail himself with the Supreme Will. That will help him to get out of the entanglement of material existence. Translation: O my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet as long as a conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries, being influenced by your external energy. So Srila Prabhupada is stating that the whole trouble of the living energy, the jiva, in material existence is that he has independent conception of life. Prabhupada says that the jiva, the conditioned soul, the living entity, is always dependent. We are always dependent on the rules of the Supreme Lord, whether we're liberated or whether we're conditioned. Always we are dependent on Krishna. We're dependent on the rules of Krishna, whether in a conditioned state or liberated state. But by the influence of Maya, the external energy, the conditioned soul thinks himself independent of the supremacy of the Lord. So by the influence of Mahamaya, living entities think, Ishvaraham aham bhoga balavam, Ishvaraham aham bhoga, balavam ma sukhi, something. So Ishvaraham, they think that the supreme controllers, Ishvaraham aham bhoga, they think they're the enjoyer. In the chapter 16, it describes the mentality of someone who is conditioned, someone who is opposing Krishna. And he thinks, I am the supreme controller, I am the controller, these things are meant for my enjoyment, I am perfect, powerful and happy. This is demoniac mentality. It's described in Divine and Demoniac, chapter 16. That he is my enemy and I will kill him, and my other enemies I will also kill. In other words, whoever gets in the way of my enjoyment, I will eradicate them. I will get rid of them. Everything is meant for my enjoyment. I am perfect, powerful and happy. I am surrounded by my family members. I am so aristocratic. I shall give some small little charity, and in this way I shall rejoice. So this is demoniac. So the conditioned soul, he thinks himself independent of Krishna and Krishna's laws. He thinks himself independent of the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada says, but the constitutional position is to dovetail oneself with the desire of the Supreme Lord. And as long as we do not do that, he is sure to drag on in the shackles of material bondage. One has to give up all sorts of plans manufactured by material concoction. So Krishna comes and he explains through Bhagavad Gita, through his instructions, what he wants, what he desires. He gives instruction. And then he sends his representatives, he sends his intimate associates to also further try to enlighten. Just like he came and gave his instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita, and then he sends his confidential associates to further explain that same instruction. So they will come and give further explanation of his instructions. Like Baladev Vidyabhusana will come and give such nice commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Or Srila Prabhupada will give such nice commentary on Bhagavad Gita in English. And the representatives of Krishna, his intimate associates, his parikas, his associates, they are saying the same thing that Krishna is saying, but explaining in more detail. And also, not only will they speak, but also they will set the perfect example. So we see this. They come and set the perfect example, so that even if we can't properly understand what is being said, at least we can see their example. And we can try to emulate their example. We do not imitate, but we can try to humbly follow in the footsteps. So they will repeat the message and explain it in greater detail, according to time, place and circumstance. This is exactly what Srila Prabhupada has done. And they will set an example which is faultless, impeccable. They will set such a wonderful example. If we do either, follow their instructions or try to understand deeply their instructions, or we just follow their example in terms of the acharyas within our line, then we will attain a success. Sometimes a advanced devotee, a Mahabhagavat, may come, and we may not actually be able to follow their example, because their example may be too high. It is too difficult to follow and too difficult to understand. Many of Lord Nityananda's pastimes are very difficult for us to understand. Prabhupada doesn't write about them so much, but many times he would go around naked, and like Avadut. So it's not that we always follow in the footsteps, because sometimes it's not applicable. Just like Lord Shiva is a great devotee, is it not? Vaishnavanam Yata Sambhu. So he's Mahajan and he's a great devotee. So we follow in his footsteps. But not all the things he does. Isn't it? Lord Shiva has long matted hair. He drank poison. You want to try that? So, we follow in the footsteps with a finer understanding, a more finer understanding, is that more important actually to follow in the footsteps is actually to follow the instruction. Because sometimes to follow in the footsteps may not always be applicable, may not always be so suitable. This is a finer point. So, but at least our acharyas, but again, we have persons like Gorkishore Das Babaji, whom we don't emulate at our stage, because he's following Babaji Vesh, or dress of Babaji. So, to follow instructions, to follow in footsteps, but of course following in the footsteps, we have to have that confirmed. Therefore these parikas, these intimate associates of Krishna, they come for this purpose. And they teach. So we should try to hear carefully what they're saying and follow their instructions. Otherwise, we're going to manufacture all types of plans, mental concoctions, to enjoy this body. So the purport, the translation says that material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries. So Srila Prabhupada has very carefully tried to give us a program by which we can get out of the material concept of life. He has created this. First, he has created the association of devotees. Before the appearance of Jiva Goswami, there was no society of devotees. When Mahaprabhu came, then persons were practicing, but there was no collective community or institution of Vaishnavas. Jiva Goswami established. He established institution. Again, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta established Gaudiya Math. And again, Srila Prabhupada is established. The purpose of this is so we can associate. We can take association and we can give it to less fallen, less fortunate souls. Because association is very important. In the association of devotees, one can make rapid advancement. Without the association of Vaishnavas, advancement can be a little slower. So, Srila Prabhupada created this society so we can associate. He also requested that we put into practice these different rules and regulations. According to Rupa Goswami, there's 3 stages of bhakti. There's sadhana bhakti, there's bhava bhakti, and there's prema bhakti. Sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. And there's 2 paths, marg. There's vidhi marg and there's raganuga marg. There are 2 paths. One can achieve sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti and prema bhakti through the path of vidhi or through the path of raganuga. So, Srila Prabhupada is teaching, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they're teaching that we should start in the path of vidhi marg. We should start practicing vidhi marg, that's the path, and we start at the beginning, which is sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti. So what does sadhana bhakti mean? It means engaging all our senses, indriyas, in the service of the Lord. It means to engage our senses in the service of the Lord. It means to engage, what senses do we have? We have knowledge-acquiring senses, we have working senses. What are they? Working senses? We have to engage them and we don't know what they are. So what are they? Mouth, what? Yes, we're talking about working senses. None of you know. So these are the working senses. You engage the working senses in the service of the Lord, and the knowledge-acquiring senses. Working senses, the legs, the hand, the voice, the reproductive organ, and the anus. And the knowledge-acquiring senses, we know those. Eyes, smell, touch. The eyes, taste, the tongue, eyes, ears, touch, the nose. And the objects of the senses are that the nose smells, the eyes will see. So that's the object of the sense, to see, to smell, to touch, to taste, to hear. And the knowledge-acquiring sense is the ear, the tongue, the eyes, the nose, touch. So sadhana bhakti means to engage these senses in the service of the Lord. And we're following the path of vidhi marg, which means we do it under the instruction of higher instruction. In other words, we do it in pursuance of the instruction of Guru, or out of pursuance of following the Vedic teachings, the scriptures. In other words, rules and regulations. Rules and regulations are to describe rules and regulations as like having stick. You understand? Stick. If you're at school and some of the children are naughty, then teacher uses stick. He only uses the stick on the naughty children, isn't it? On the ones who just can't do it themselves. But those who can do it themselves, who can behave themselves, then there's no need of stick. So rules and regulations actually required, we need, but we should understand why. Because without them, we do nonsense. We don't do what we have to do. So vidhi marg means the path of emphasizing, or the impetus for engaging in service to the Lord. The impetus for practicing is simply to satisfy Guru, because Guru has told you to do it, or out of pursuance of following sastras. In sastra it says we must do this, therefore I must do it. So this is required. We have to do this. There is no question of going to some higher stage of bhakti without going through this. One has to go through this. So it is very important. Just like you build a house on solid foundation, then the structure is very strong. But if that foundation is a little weak, then no matter how high you build and how nice it looks, it can fall down. So the foundation is very solid. Just like sometimes in areas where they have earthquakes, then they build the houses very solid. They build them in a very solid way to withstand. So the foundation is very solid. And then when there is some earthquake, there is more chance that they don't fall down. So they were telling me this in Los Angeles, or where they had that fault, that all houses over a certain, since so many years ago, have built with certain structure so that they can withstand certain types of shock waves and things. So if the foundation is very strong, then everything else is good. But if the foundation is a little weak, then what happens? Then there's some danger, isn't it? Some danger. So foundation means observance, that we observe very strictly, rules and regulations. We understand why we have to follow, and we follow. Not that we just follow. If we just follow rule and regulation without understanding the essence, then what is the use? Do you understand? Essence means ansi, or sara, the purpose or the essence behind a rule and regulation. We should understand that. If we don't understand why the essence or the purpose behind some rule and regulation, then it becomes what? Like a niyamagra becomes a ritual, becomes niyamagra, it becomes unfavorable. So one has to understand why you are following. Then you will follow. But if you don't understand why you are following, then it's not so good. It becomes a little sentimental and becomes like ritual. That's what we call a ritual, isn't it? A ritual. Hinduism is full of rituals. People sit and do certain ceremonies and they have no idea why they're doing it. And if we ask them, then what type of answer they give? My forefathers did it. Yes. No logic at all. Because my grandfather did it, I will do it. Because my grandfather drank, I will drink. Because my grandfather committed suicide, I will commit suicide. No logic at all. So rule and regulation, we should understand the essence. The essence, why? So niyamagraha means either to reject rules and regulations and act whimsically. In other words, one doesn't bother with rules and regulations, one just acts whimsically. Or one puts too much emphasis on rule and regulation and doesn't understand why you are doing it. You understand this? I'll give an example of too much emphasis on rule and regulation. Too much emphasis on rule and regulation is that when a Ekadashi comes, then what are we supposed to do? Fast. But that's the external. What's the internal? What's the real purpose of Ekadashi? What is the essence of Ekadashi? To increase your remembrance of Krishna. So that's the real purpose of Ekadashi. It's the essence. The external show or the outward observance of Ekadashi is that you may fast. So Raghunath Das Goswami is in Samadhi. Right? He's in Samadhi. And Ekadashi comes. And he doesn't observe it. Why? Because he's what? In Samadhi. So they criticize him. So that means, you don't understand. Already Raghunath Das Goswami has achieved the conclusion of Ekadashi because he's in Samadhi. So he may not observe it. He may be in Samadhi. So he may not actually be externally observing it. He may not even know it's Ekadashi. But then you criticize him. Oh, he didn't observe Ekadashi. So rule and regulation, we should understand the essence behind it. And we should then practice it. So this is very important, because to observe rule and regulation, to understand, of course, why we are practicing these different rules and regulations, number one, and then to practice it strictly. This is essential in order that we build a very strong and solid foundation in our bhakti. And then by the grace of qualified Vaishnava and by the mercy of the Lord, one can go higher, one can become more advanced. But first, one must very strictly understand. First, one must understand why one is following, and then secondly, one must very strictly follow. So Srila Prabhupada requested that we follow different rules and regulations, put them into practice. This will help us make advancement, and this will help us become free from the influence of the external energy, or Maya. So Srila Prabhupada requested that we follow a morning program. Morning program starts at what time? Yeah, of course, that's the official morning program. You may have your own morning program where you get up at earlier, 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I know many Vaishnavas, serious devotees in our movement, who regularly will rise at midnight, 12:30, 1. They do that. They've been doing it for years and years and years. It's part of their program. So, they have a more specialized type of morning program. But at least, for general devotee, it is requested we come to Mangalarti at 4:30, and attend the different functions, So Prabhupada has given us this. He's requested that we follow this. Now why? First you have to say, why do we have to do this? Why is it important to do this? Because first, 4:30 we offer prayers to Guru, Srila Prabhupada, and others, and one spiritual master also, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In other words, we're invoking auspiciousness by remembering qualified Vaishnavas, highest qualified Vaishnavas. We're singing the samsara prayers, we're invoking remembrance of our spiritual master, of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, So one cannot go anywhere without invoking the mercy of one's spiritual master. We're talking about the Srila Prabhupada especially. So first we create some auspiciousness, we think of Srila Prabhupada, this is the idea. Many times persons will stand through Mangalarti, and they won't actually get to think of Prabhupada at all, or their spiritual master, or the Goswamis, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They'll be thinking about who's playing the cartels, who isn't playing or who is playing the drum, where people are standing. All different things will go through your mind. Sometimes we even just struggle to stay awake. We're just standing there struggling to stay awake. We might be thinking how cold the floor is and why I didn't put my socks on. That can be one's whole Mangalarti. So, yes, we're standing there, that's one thing, that's all right. It's better than sleeping. But we should understand the essence. The essence is to try to think of what Srila Prabhupada, previous acharyas, have given us. The purpose of this ceremony is to try to develop our affection and our attachment for qualified Vaishnavas. We should think of the English of the songs. We should think, what we are singing. Nikunjaya no Ratitila. We should think like this. As the songs are being sung. And then, worshipping Tulsi Devi. Actually, this worship of Tulsi Devi is very, very high. We don't understand this. Many of us don't realize this. But I know in one Gaudiya organization, in the Gaudiya Vedanta Samhita, which is a bona fide organization belonging to disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, they don't sing this Tulsi prayers. And we found out why. It's because it's too intimate. The prayer is too intimate. It's too high, and many devotees will sing it and they won't even know what they're singing, isn't it? O beloved Krishna, Tulsi, Vrindadevi, I bow down before you again and again. Whoever takes shelter of you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make a resident of Vrindavan. I also desire a place within the pleasure gurus of Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower. The maidservants of Braj. It's a very intimate prayer. Most of us don't even know what is happening at that time. We're not even thinking. So again, we should understand what you are saying. You should think carefully what you are saying. You should meditate a little on the English. But this prayer to Tulsi Devi is a very high kind. Actually, you can't get any higher than that type of prayer. Allow me to take birth within Vrindavan. Allow me to become a follower, a maidservant. Allow me to become a follower, within the groves of Vrindavan. This is a very, very intimate prayer. So Prabhupada has given us that. That's pure mercy. He's given us that. And then we chant our rounds. What is the purpose of chanting? Sometimes devotees will think, well, I'm chanting my rounds. Why? Because I was told to. This is an understanding, but it's not very high. I'm chanting my rounds because if I don't, I'll get criticized. I'm chanting my rounds because I took a vow, and I don't want to break my vow. I mean, these are all no doubt impetus. This all acts as an impetus. I'm doing it to please Krishna. I'm doing it for the pleasure of my spiritual master. These are higher types of impetus. I'm doing it, and then higher than that is I'm doing it actually because I enjoy it. I actually enjoy chanting, because when chanting I associate with Krishna, and I become very satisfied. It is very pleasing. I have some little taste, I have some little relish for chanting. So this is a higher type of impetus, that I am chanting Krishna's name. Why? Because I have some relish for it. I'm not doing it because I have to do it. But I'm doing it actually out of relish, because I enjoy it. This is actually superior. This may take many lifetimes to come to, this type of feeling. I do it because I derive some type of relish out of it. That may take many lifetimes to come to. So we chant. There's a need to do this. Even if we don't have that relish, then we're doing it because we have been asked to do it by Guru. We've been asked to do it by Srila Prabhupada. So out of loyalty, out of obedience, we will do it. So this is also good. It should be like that. But we should understand why we're doing it. Because by pleasing qualified Vaishnava, by pleasing Guru, by pleasing Srila Prabhupada, I will make advancement. And then, one attends class, someone gets a clearer understanding of the philosophy, there's some discussion. It is important to hear. In the association of devotees, it is important to hear. Nastapreshu Vidreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Seva Abhadreshu. The inauspicious things in our hearts go by regularly attending class, by regularly hearing. All that is inauspicious in the heart goes. So it is important to hear. So this constitutes like our morning program. And if this foundation of our day is strong, then the rest of the day will also be good. It's like the foundation of a building is strong, and the rest of the building will be strong. Or at least is more likely to last longer. So the foundation is this morning program, and the very essence of our morning program actually is this chanting, this hearing and chanting Krishna's name. So this is done enthusiastically, utsahan, and this is done with some utkanta, with some eagerness, with some faith, with some conviction. Then we can fix our consciousness, and so much service we can do. So much devotional service, external devotional service we can do. We can preach, we can manage, we may administrate, or whatever the case may be. This we can do very nicely. But if our consciousness is not fixed, statam sattva prasiddhati, and this is achieved by hearing and chanting, which means the morning program. If our consciousness is not of a sufficient level, then our activities won't be so good. A person's activities are a manifestation of their consciousness. That's all. So if the consciousness is good, if we are thinking of Krishna, if we understand we're not the doer, we're not the enjoyer, we understand we're eternal spirit soul, we're the servant of Guru and Gauranga, then our activities will also be done in that mood. If that's our consciousness, then our activities will also be done in that mood. That I'm the servant, that I'm not the doer, I'm not the enjoyer. But if our consciousness is not so fixed, then we begin to think I'm the enjoyer, I'm the doer. And this is very dangerous. We can get in so much anxiety and distress. So it is important that we follow very strictly this morning program with the idea, and we should understand why we have to follow it. So what is the position of someone who doesn't follow it? Someone who doesn't follow it means they haven't understood the importance of following it. That's what it means. They have not understood, they haven't come to that stage of understanding yet. Their realizations aren't that deep, and they haven't understood the necessity or the need. Another one may be asked by Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada has emphasized so many times, hearing and chanting morning program. So if one is not able to follow it, it means one does not have that much faith, in Srila Prabhupada. That's what it means also. Srila Prabhupada asks us to do something and we're not able to do it. Then it means also we don't have that much faith. We become overpowered by Maya, by the mind. Isn't it? And the mind, Maya, the external energy. What does the external energy say? No, don't bother. You have the rest of the day to chant. You can take it easy. External energy will say this. Maya, material nature. So, but if one actually wants to please Guru and Gauranga, then we know very clearly what does Prabhupada want. We know what his disciples want. We know what qualified Vaishnavas want. We will do. So it is very important that we understand why we have to do, and then we do. And no doubt Maya or material nature will come and try to bewilder us. But this will always be there. Tests will always be there. And you know why these tests are there? In spiritual life, we receive so many types of tests. So these tests are to show us and others how advanced we are, or how advanced or how not advanced we are. Krishna already knows exactly where we are at, because he's the super soul, he's the Paramatma. We may be putting on a show, and we may even be fooling ourselves. So Krishna knows, so he will give some test, not so he can see, so you can see yourself, and so others will also see. So some test will come, some illness, some difficulty, and these tests are there to make us take more shelter of Krishna. That's all. Test is there simply to make us take more shelter of the Supreme Lord. So it is Krishna's kindness that he sends one test. The example is that we cannot go back to Godhead without coming to Sudanam. Sudanam means what? Pure name. In Sudanam, tears will come from the eyes. So Krishna helps us. He helps us and puts us in different positions, tests, difficulties, so that in desperation we call out to him. We can't do it without his special help. So he comes and gives us some special test, some calamity, can be some health, some anxiety, some problem. And this increases our dependence on him to such a point that when we call out his name, it is done with such emotion and feeling that tears will come. That's Sudanam. And without Sudanam, you can't go back to Godhead. So Krishna wants us to go back to Godhead, so he helps us like this. He sends. These tests and problems that come is not due to our karma. Krishna is sending it personally. It's custom made just for us. It may look like our prarabdha karma, but actually it's not our karma. For a devotee who's sufficiently surrendered, it's not our karma. Krishna is personally sending it. It's described as soon as you come to Nam Bus, there is no karma. Karma is finished. All karma is finished. When you come to Nam Bus, Parabdha, Aparabdha, Kut and Bij, all types of karma are finished. But you're not on the level of prema. So Krishna sends. He sends some difficulty. It looks like karma. But Krishna is sending it, simply custom-made, simply for you. It may come in the same shape and kind as your previous karma. In other words, before you were a Vaishnav, you may have had some type of disease, some type of illness. And then when you come to devotional service and you come to Nam Bus stage, that same illness may be there, but it's not actually your past karma. It's Krishna sending. And the purpose of this is to make us come higher, to call out in desperation, to come closer to his lotus feet. Because we're so complacent. The first opportunity we take it easy, isn't it? The first opportunity we take rest 10 minutes late, and we think, no, now I have to sleep in. Why? Because I took rest late, only a few minutes late. So we forego, our hearing and chanting, the most auspicious time of the day, early morning. We just sleep there and snore and emit foul smells and sweat and have these mental things that go on in our mind. And we lie there, intoxicated. Actually, it's intoxication, isn't it? Sleep intoxicates. So we're in an intoxicated state, but not intoxicated by Krishna, intoxicated by Maya, and we miss the most auspicious time of the day, So, we're so lazy and complacent, isn't it? That as soon as any opportunity comes for sense gratification, we take it. We eat too much, we sleep too much. As soon as we come together, prajalpa. So we can't push ourselves. It's very difficult. It's a rare devotee that can push himself. So therefore Krishna comes and pushes you. He gives you some problem. He gives you some health problem, some difficulty. He puts the heat on himself, Krishna. And this is meant to make you come higher and higher and higher. So we should try to become more serious. Srila Prabhupada requested us to do so many things. So we should try, out of loyalty to him, please him. We know what he wants us to do. So it's essential that we follow these different rules and regulations. And the very essence is this morning program, and the essence of the morning program is actually hearing and is this chanting. It's chanting the holy name of the Lord. And if we can't do it because of some relish, if we have some relish, automatically we will rise. No one will even have to tell us. We will want to get up earlier. If we have some relish, naturally you want to get up. No one will even tell you. But if we're not on that stage, then at least we should do it in the idea of trying to please Guru and Gauranga. So this is very important, because if we don't do this, then it shows or it manifests a type of complacency. And spiritual life is no place for someone who's complacent. If you're casual about spiritual life, you're not going to make it at all. You'll become a casualty very, very quickly. You'll end up in hospital, finished. The material world, in other words. Spiritual life is actually for those persons who are serious. So if we're not so serious, then we won't be allowed to stay in the association of devotees. We may have to wait till some future lifetime. Some next lifetime maybe we can carry on. So it is very important that we manifest this type of seriousness. And then the foundation of our spiritual life will be very strong. Then there is some chance that we can understand Krishna, his name, his lila, gun, rup, nam. We can understand what is Vrindavan. But there's no possibility of ever understanding these things if our foundation is not strong. It has to be very strong. So this means strictly following the different rules and regulations, the more subtle rules and regulations. We know about the 4 principles, but I mean rising early, chanting, attending the morning program, but also understanding why we're doing this. Not just doing it like a robot, but understanding why we are doing it. So this is very important. Otherwise, we're going to have major difficulties in our spiritual lives, definitely. And I have seen that also over so many years, that those persons who are more serious and strict, then they have become more advanced. I have seen this. And those persons who are more casual, more relaxed, more lackadaisical, then really they don't last. So we should try to understand this and put it into practice. Any questions? When a devotee receives karma, or when Krishna will send karma, or Krishna will send his own arrangement. It's all the arrangement of Krishna. But one is like Krishna is dealing with you from a distance, impersonally also. Sort of he deals with you through his different energies. And one is he's personally dealing with you. So when a devotee is in Namaparad, then he's committing offenses and he's still getting karma. So that karma is being sent, ultimately it's being sent by Krishna, but indirectly. Krishna doesn't personally come. He's sending it through his agents, his potency of Maya and so forth. But when one comes to Nama Bus, then Krishna takes more interest in you. Krishna becomes more interested and he wants to help you more because he sees you're trying. So he will send certain things to you, but he's personally doing it. He's personally doing it. So both are by the energy of God, but one is by him personally doing, and one is he's doing it more indirectly. Just like in a big factory, the manager of the factory, the general manager, the chairman of the factory. Now, it's his factory, he's the sole proprietor, and there are thousands of people working in the factory. So the whole factory is going on by his potency. So if some worker, is ill, then, there's a public relations officer who sees him, and there's a senior public relations officer, and like that. It's all by the managing director's potency. But the managing director won't himself get involved. But if the managing director knows that employee and has some relationship with him, then he'll personally go down and see him. Oh, how are you? Take a few days off, take some sick leave. He'll personally get involved. So when a devotee comes to Nama Bus, then Krishna will personally get involved. And as that devotee makes more and more advancement, Krishna will get more and more involved with that devotee until that devotee comes to the Uttama platform, and then Krishna sells himself to that devotee, literally. And he becomes so much involved with that devotee is even able to control Krishna. One of the characteristics of prema, pure devotional service, is that a devotee is able to control Krishna. But if we're on the other end, Namaparad, we're not so serious, sakama, material desires. Krishna also wants to help us, but it'll be more indirect. He's not going to get too much personally involved because we're not eligible yet. We haven't qualified for that personal attention.
I'm wondering, if the endeavors there for the devotee or the taste to do that service ultimately come, like in Sankirtan?
Sorry, if one
endeavors for the taste ultimately come, like if we're just doing the service just because we know we should do it, and sometimes we don't have the taste to always go out every day just to do it.
In that case, we force ourselves with intelligence. It's called a buddhipurvaka. With intelligence, we force ourselves. There is some relish, but it's not what we call ruchi. Something is there, but it's not ruchi. So with intelligence, we will force ourselves. This is called nishta. The stage of nishta means we do things based on intelligence. See? Nishta means steady devotional service. It means I am doing this because my spiritual master asked me to do it, because I have to do it, because if I don't do it, I won't be happy, because I know I have to do it, because the scriptures tell me to do it, because if I carry on doing it, I'll make advancement, because if I carry on doing it, I will become attached, or if I carry on doing it, I will develop ruchi or taste. So this is all like nishta. But the stage of ruchi, which is above nishta, that's different. And the stage of ruchi, the impetus for doing anything is the relish, the sweetness, the taste. That's all, And therefore you find yourself getting up so early to chant, or sometimes not even sleeping because you can't sleep because you want to chant. Not looking at your watch at all when it comes to hearing and chanting. Just going on for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. Not bothering to take breakfast. Why? Because you just want to chant. You have some taste. So you can see ruchi is the impetus. In that stage of ruchi, the impetus is the relish. But in the stage of nishta, the impetus is actually logic, or I want to make more advancement, or because my spiritual master has requested me to do it, or because I know I have to do it, or because it's in scripture, or if I don't do it, I'll feel so miserable, like that. So this is more nishta. See? So practically everything we're doing out of intelligence. We're going on Sankirtan. Why? Because we have to preach. Because the fallen souls, if they don't get a book, they'll be lost. Because we've been asked to do it by a spiritual master. Because it's very important. Because it's the highest humanitarian work. This is all very good. Wonderful. This is nishta. So if we carry on doing that, will we get a relish? That's the question. Not necessarily. We can carry on doing it for a long time and we won't necessarily get a relish, but we may also. We may not. And the example is, let's say you're thirsty and I have some water and you come to me and ask me, can I have some water? Will you get that water? Not necessarily. I may give it to you, I may not. If I'm pleased with you, I may give it to you. But just because you've come to me, it doesn't mean you get that glass of water. So practice of sadhana doesn't necessarily lead to bhav. It doesn't, just because I do my sadhana, doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to come to the stage of bhav. Just like you come to me, you're thirsty, and you come to me and you want water, and you pray, please give me some water. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to give you. But if you don't come to me, you'll never get water. So if we don't do sadhana, we'll never come to bhava bhakti. So we have to do sadhana bhakti. But it doesn't mean if you necessarily do sadhana bhakti, you will automatically come to bhava bhakti. No. This has been very elaborately explained by Jiva Goswami. Very elaborately explained by Jiva Goswami, commenting on a verse, Visuddha Sattva Visatma, which are characteristics of bhav, which is described in chapter 22 of Jaiva Dharma, preliminary considerations on Prayojana Tattva, which is very complex and complicated, and hardly any devotees even understand it. And I also don't understand it. I just read something. So your question is that if I carry on, will I automatically get some relish? So to rephrase that question, if I carry on with sadhana, will I automatically come to ruchi? Not necessarily. One comes to ruchi by mercy, and that mercy is coming from Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda and the Goswamis. Now they'll give so much mercy And they're very much likely to give that mercy, yes. But just because I'm doing sadhana doesn't mean sadhana alone is not enough. We have to get that mercy also. But without doing sadhana, the mercy is very unlikely to come. But by doing sadhana, we become eligible for that mercy. Without sadhana, we're not eligible. There are a few cases of sometimes mercy coming without sadhana, as is the case of Kaliya serpent. Krishna just jumped and gave full mercy and no sadhana. Kaliya wasn't doing hearing and chanting and going out distributing and nothing. Sadhana, Kaliya was a serpent, but Krishna put his feet, bang. So that's an example of it's called a prasada jabhav. It's called mercy coming from Krishna. That's real Kripa Shakti. But that's very, very rare, extremely rare. So in our case, we do sadhana, but sadhana alone is not enough. We have to have that mercy. We have to really try to please Radhatmika devotee, Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, high-class devotee. But if we don't do the sadhana, then we're not eligible at all. So we have to do the sadhana. But that in itself isn't enough. We have to get that mercy. And that mercy comes from Srila Prabhupada. Now we're very much likely to get it if we carry on serving. But we can't say that you will definitely get it. But you're very much likely to get it. But we can't say, and Jiva Goswami explains this, that sadhana alone does not exclusively produce bhav. It doesn't. It comes by serving, or pleasing a very qualified Vaishnava of the category of Srila Prabhupada. So that's what we're trying to do. And definitely if we carry on doing what we're doing, we become very much eligible. But always, our advancement is determined by mercy. Not by what we're doing, but by mercy. If we say it's just coming from sadhana, then, where's the mercy? It's coming by mercy. And we have to appreciate that very high, wonderful mercy that is coming. Is that a bit clearer? Or is it more confusing? And it's a very technical subject matter. And it is explained in Jaiva Dharma. Jiva Goswami elaborately talks about it. But it's not a common subject matter. Anyhow, anything else? Any other questions? No more questions? So how can we attract this relish? By only one way, service to Uttama. By serving actually it's described by serving a Radhatmika devotee, one can attract the Swarup Shakti. And that means bhav. And what we may, so this is what we want. We can go from sadhana bhakti to bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti will come when bhav comes. Bhav comes when Swarup Shakti comes. Swarup Shakti comes through the mercy or the agency of a Radhatmika devotee. Radhatmika devotee means a devotee who is what?
What is in the pastime of Krishna?
An associate of Krishna in Vrindavan. So we understand Srila Prabhupada is of that category. So by serving him, we become eligible for this high type of thing. So this is what we're doing. We're serving his mission, we're serving his instructions. And his disciples, who are acting as spiritual masters, are telling us also to serve him. See? So we may not even know how it works, but if we just carry on serving him, it will work. And we will make advancement. But we want to please him. Exclusive Ananya devotion, exclusive devotion to him. And then he's in a position to give this wonderful mercy. And that's how we can go from Nishta to Ruchi and higher. And of course serving him means to do our sadhana, because he's asked us to do it. He's emphasized so much hearing and chanting. But hearing and chanting alone is actually not enough. We have to have that mercy. But we become eligible for his mercy by following strictly his instructions. And one of his instructions, one of his most important instructions, is hearing and chanting, distributing books. Another very important instruction of his.
But quite often Prabhupada used to say that if you distribute his book, you go up to what I can't understand is that you say by following sadhana, it's not necessarily that one can elevate himself or herself to the platform of prayer. But Prabhupada said by distributing his books automatically.
Yeah, Prabhupada is, he's explained according to time, place and circumstance. You know, and he may say things to encourage us and to enliven us. So it has to be understood like that. That he will simplify things, you know, and just to encourage us. And his purpose was to encourage us, to create some enthusiasm. So he may say different things. You know. But if we look a little deeper into the teachings of the Goswamis, we will find it's not quite like that. You know, but at that time, how could we understand, you know, these more subtle, different explanations? Even nowadays, hardly any devotees understand it.
How is that applicable to our lives? Because in our lives as devotees, we are followers of Prabhupada and we accept whatever he say as true and reality. So whatever is beyond our comprehension, we don't feel like there's something applicable to our lives. But we have strong faith in Prabhupada's words.
Yeah.
That's what keeps us going.
Yeah. So that's all right. So we should have that, Guru Nishta, strong faith. You know, but he's